Good morning, year 4, 5 and 6. We are joining together again for our English lesson. And today we are looking at relative clauses and relative pronouns. Year 4, this might be a little bit new to you, but year 5 and 6 should definitely have heard of relative clauses. So let's have a look together. So we are starting with a simple main clause. Matthew was playing the guitar. It's a good sentence because it has a subject and an action, but it's not very interesting. So we are going to add some extra information. Matthew was playing the guitar. He was in the bedroom. But instead of having them as two separate sentences, we are going to learn to use a relative clause to bring these together. So instead, we are going to add a bit of non-vital information. We are going to drop it in as a relative clause. So Matthew, who was in his bedroom, was playing the guitar. So you'll notice in the dark green is still the main clause. Matthew was playing the guitar. That's the main bit. But the fact he was in his bedroom is just that added bit of information. So you'll notice that this has been dropped into the main clause after the subject, Matthew, the noun, Matthew. And then we've used a relative pronoun to link this relative clause. Matthew, comma, who was in his bedroom, comma, was playing the guitar. Now you need to make sure that if you pulled out that relative clause, it would still make sense, which it would. But this is added information to make this sentence more interesting. And who is our relative pronoun there? So the main clause is still there. The subordinate clause, and it's specifically a relative clause because of the relative pronoun, is dropped into the middle. It could also be at the end. Matthew was playing the guitar in his bedroom. You could add bits to the end, but this is just another way of showing variety in our sentences. So let's have a look at another one. Oh no, this is the same one again. We've replaced the pronoun in the second sentence with a relative pronoun. Yeah, so the he becomes who, because Matthew, who was in his bedroom, was playing the guitar. It's all relative using relative pronouns. Okay, which is also a relative pronoun, and we would use this to replace objects. So let's have a look at this one. Here are two basic sentences. Apples grow on trees. They are very healthy. So I can put the second section in a relative clause and I drop it in. Apples, which are very healthy, grow on trees. So my main clause is still there in green. I've used commas as parenthesis to drop in this extra clause, and I've changed the they to which. Apples, which are very healthy, grow on trees. We can also use whose as a relative pronoun. So here are my two sentences. Victoria became queen in 1837. Before Elizabeth II, her reign was the longest in British history. So Victoria, whose reign was the longest in British history before Elizabeth II, became queen in 1837. So my main clause has been split immediately after the noun, the subject of this sentence, and then the added information has been put after a relative pronoun. Okay, here's another one. My dog is called Fritz. His fur is very curly. My dog, whose fur is very curly, is called Fritz. So again, we've got our commas, we've got our relative pronoun immediately after we've introduced the subject. Okay, let's have a look at this one. Majorca is a Spanish island. We go there on holiday. Has been turned to Majorca, where we go on holiday, is a Spanish island. See if you can think about what the relative pronoun is here. It should be the one immediately after the subject. So well done, it is where. So we can replace relative pronouns for places. Majorca, where we go on holiday, is a Spanish island. The main clause is still there. We can use when as a relative pronoun as well. In 2008, when my brother was born, I was 2 years old. Splitting it again with my commas. We can also use that as a relative pronoun. I'm not sure if we have an example. Okay, let's see what's wrong with my new sentence here. So originally I had my mum is a doctor. Her name is Safira. My mum, her name is Safira, is a doctor. Pause the video and see if you can work out what has gone wrong here. Hopefully you've realised that actually this her should have been replaced with the whose. We didn't need both. So it should be my mum, whose name is Safira, is a doctor. We don't need the pronoun and the relative pronoun. Okay, we can also put these at the end. And if it is at the end, we only need the one comma because the full end of the sentence would have the full stop. So here's an example, and year fours in particular are going to be looking at these examples for their activity. George was passed by a fire engine. That's a main clause, comma, which had its blue lights on. So this is at the end because it's referring to the object. It's still a noun and we can still use relative clauses to add information about a noun, but this is not about George. So it comes at the end of the sentence and it's about the fire engine. So just one comma this time, because obviously we know that there's a full stop at the end. So because the relative clause is about the fire engine, it's not a drop-in clause, it's at the end. Here's another example. This one is a drop-in one, but using brackets instead of commas, still a type of parenthesis. Hospitals, where doctors and nurses work, are very busy places. Full stop. Another example. We can also use dashes. Grandma, whose eyes are sensitive, has to wear dark glasses. Full stop. Dashes, brackets, and commas do the same job when they're used as a pair. If it's a relative clause at the end, referring to added information about the object, then we only need the one comma. So we know that we can combine two simple sentences using relative pronouns. We know that we use the relative pronouns to replace the pronoun in the second sentence, he, she, they. We know that we use either immediately after the subject of the sentence as a drop-in clause, or we are adding information about the object in the sentence, and in which case it goes at the end. So your activity is on Teams and it is an assignment. So make sure you go onto your Teams. If you go onto your relative clauses assignment and open it, you will see the activity here. So there are 10 sentences. This one has 2 sentences and you need to join them by inserting a relative clause. And the year 4s have sentences where you need to put your relative clause at the end. So if you open up your assignment, you can then type your answers underneath with proper punctuation. And I'm really looking forward to marking all of these. So well done, guys. Keep up the hard work and see you soon.